Warm greetings. Welcome to today's session on understanding the nuances of being women in the field of architecture, in the larger purview of being in the diverse fields of the built environment. The session is conducted with the support of Eco Development and Research Cell, a not-for-profit initiative of the Environmental Design Consultants, Ahmedabad. My name is Mansee Bal Bhargava, and I will be the host for the discussion as I represent both the organizations. I'm glad to start this conversation with women engaging in the practice and pedagogy of the built environment. The aim is to celebrate the role of women in shaping the built environment, as well as then to understand and document the biographical journey of women from practice, research, and education, those who started with architecture background. That's the basis. Through the study, the intention is to acknowledge the contribution of the women in the profession, bring forth the critical points that needs to be addressed at individual, institutional, and collective level, as what makes or breaks or tweaks the career of women architects in the country. We are focusing on India, of course. The study on women in architecture profession is a call to action for everyone to realize the need for equitable practice in order to advance towards sustainable architecture. Also, in a way to delimit the very definition of the profession itself. The approach to this research is basically autoethnography. So in other words, we are going to get to understand the biographical journey or the journey of the woman in the field, and we are going to write about it. And we are looking at two outcomes of this interaction. One is writing a small manuscript as a coffee table book, and another part is a YouTube series. And the basis of this is, of course, celebrating, but also to bring the wonderful work which many of the women architects are doing in the country in diverse field, and make their work noticeable to others in the field. And also, of course, that will motivate the younger generation to understand that there are women in the field. So for today, we have Apurva Bose, and I'm really glad that she could make out time for us, especially because we have been trying to get her for quite some time. So before I invite Apurva, let me just also thank my team who has been really instrumental in conducting this research, as well as we are closing towards 50 women, specialists, I will say, in the field. And I'm really looking forward to having the first volume, especially to have the draft with all of you together. Thank you so much, Apurva. And I really need your permission to record this session, as well as to have your experiences written in the form of a manuscript.
Thank you, Mansee. Yes, you have my permission. But before that, let me thank you and congratulate you on this wonderful endeavor that you have been working on. I wish you all the best, and I'm quite delighted to be a part of this.
Thank you so much, Apurva. So I have very simple questions, and as I mentioned, it's an ethnography. So we are keen to learn about how did you maneuver your journey. So let me take you some years back. You know, when you were in high school, 11th, 12th, and when all of us had this nervousness, where to go, what to do. So how did you land up in architecture? Where was it? What kind of family and friends and education environment was it that brought you to architecture?
Well, first a disclaimer, there is no architect or designer or writer in my family, and that's across generations. So I'm the only architect, designer, and writer professionally in my family. But to give a little background of my family, my hometown is Chandigarh. My father is a very well-known oncosurgeon. My mother chose to be a housewife, though she was a PhD in physics, and I am the youngest of three daughters. I was never confused about the profession that I wanted to take up because I think from an early age, I knew I wanted to be a doctor always because I could see the amount of respect and adulation my father was getting. But it so happened that when I was in the 10th, it was actually my father who veered me away from medical and, said that I should probably get into non-medical. Anyway, I got into non-medical thinking that I would be doing engineering because, engineering, medical were the only fields that
Only
were
thing.
I'm talking about 2000, when I was giving my exams. And, I used to be very creative, and also I was writing from a very early age, from 7th Great,
Mm.
yeah. So anyway, when I was taking the engineering exams, there is also an additional paper that you have to write for architecture. And since I was
Architect.
creative, so I just wrote it. And it so happened that I scored very well in my, architecture paper, and I scored well in my engineering exams also. But just that I did not get the branch of engineering that I wanted in Chandigarh. That was
Mm-hmm.
my hometown, and my parents wanted me to be in Chandigarh. So I was getting it in cities outside Chandigarh. And since my parents wanted me to be in Chandigarh, so architecture was seemed interesting. I had no clue what it was, but it was something creative, and so I got into it. But yeah, it was going along, and I think in my fourth year, when I was offered this subject of architecture journalism as an elective, it suddenly connected with me because I used to be a very shy kid, and
Mm-hmm.
written words were my mode of expression. So, and I was always writing, poems, articles. It started as something in the children's corner in the newspapers. Then, as an adult, I was writing on random topics like ragging in colleges, films, and everything. So then I took up the field, took up the elective of architecture journalism, and I realized in those 6 months that I had an affinity that I did not have for any of the other subjects that I studied during, my 5 years. But yes, it was a path that was undiscovered, especially in India. This was when I was in 2005, when I graduated. So that's my journey from being someone who was so sure of doing medical and then turned to architecture. And then here it is, architecture, writing, journalism, and criticism.
Interesting, very interesting. Rightly said that in those days it was engineering or medical, and some of us who had good, hands with, I think, art and writing and even other art forms, found a very safe haven in architecture. But I'm going to pick very small detail which you mentioned, that your parents were keen that you be in Chandigarh. Because we are discussing being women in the field, and that's why I'm picking that point. Do you think it is because you were all sisters and because you were daughter, or because I also grew up with all sisters around, huh? So, and when I'm having this interaction, it becomes natural for me to reflect upon the journey I went through, so that the conversation becomes relative for me. Uh, do you think it was because you were girl that they were keen to have you around, or probably like in my case, I never realized that being a girl or a boy is different because we were all girl in the house. Was it similar for you, or it was something else?
No, to answer your question briefly, and then probably I'll take you a little on the background. To answer your question briefly, no, it wasn't. But I was the youngest of the three daughters. My parents very protective, and more
Uh,
so because my elder sister had married and stepped out. My middle sister,
okay.
she went into another
Hmm.
city to do her engineering.
Okay.
And just after, so both the daughters had left, and I was the only daughter. And because,
Okay.
younger ones are really protected. So I don't
Uh,
think it had anything to do with the fact
it,
that I was a girl, but I want to probably connect it back to the upbringing that I had, that though we were three girls, three daughters, but I think my parents' focus was always on bringing up as good human beings. So not as
yes.
girls who were supposed to get married, and hence they had to be
Yes.
trained to run houses, or as boys who
Mm,
could
yes.
things that girls couldn't or
Yes. Yeah,
shouldn't.
I say I can relate so much. I think gender did not come into picture till
Yeah,
a
because
long time actually.
I think we had a very balanced upbringing. We were not
Mm.
fussed upon because we were girls, and nor were we raised
Mm-hmm.
tomboys where we were,
Mm.
supposed to do and know everything. And we were not in a closed environment as many girls would be because their parents
Mm.
didn't
Mm.
want them to step out. But at the same time,
Yes.
we
Mm.
were never given full freedom to do anything that we liked. So I think we had a very, very balanced environment. And
Balance.
I must say
Mm.
that my parents never said never made us feel, and leave alone making us feel, they never felt that they never had a son. In fact, even today, we three daughters are their pride, and we never missed having a brother in the house. But obviously, Papa being the only male in the house with four women, obviously he took on a lot more than.
Responsibility.
But those things, um, they never made us feel. Neither did my mother, neither did my father. So my stepping out was just because the youngest and two daughters.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, because they must have felt that they will be left alone after having so. Yeah. So coming to your college time, and I'm completely aware that actually teachers have also never made this distinction between being a girl or a boy in the class. But I would like to understand from you, and you rightly mentioned that how journalism got your attention and close to your heart. And I was very similar with me, where it was landscape architecture with that Walter Jacob Simon's landscape architecture book, and it just stuck on my heart. So in those 5 years, did you ever realize, or probably towards the end of the 5 years, when you have to step out and start thinking about what next? We all had the similar anxiety as in 12th, with fourth year training and then final year. What next am I going to do? Where am I going to be? Am I going to do masters, this and that? So I need to understand from you, was it already occurring in your mind that being a girl or a woman, I have to do this kind of activity because I have seen my seniors, I have learned about my seniors? What was going on in your head? Did you realize being woman in the profession will be very different, or where am I heading? What do I wish to do? How was you really dealing with that situation in fourth year, final year?
No, I think I never faced this thing about gender, because we were blessed that we were brought up in that environment. Then
Uh,
I did go to a girls' school, but it was not to be that I had to be in a girls' school, but it was one of the
yeah.
best schools in
Yes.
Chandigarh, in Carmel Convent School. So I grew up there, and even when I in fact went to college, that is Chandigarh College of Architecture,
Hmm.
I think in our batch of 32 or 33, there were 25 girls. The rest, the
Yes.
rest
Okay.
boys. So there is never that thing of that, being a girl, what happens next. And also to say, though my parents have, always brought us as people who have to be academically focused, but they didn't
Yes.
want us to become bookworms. So we three sisters were all into co-curricular activities. So that way, our exposure was to a lot.
Hello.
But it never kind of crossed my mind that I have to do this. Definitely after final year, and I was planning to do that. But just that when in the fourth year I got this elective, I started realizing that probably architectural writing is a subject that I can take up when I graduate. But when I graduated, there were no options really available in architectural
Yes.
writing. So I had my options as restoration, interior design, architectural writing. But then I would say, graduated, I started sending applications to the few architectural magazines that were there in Delhi and Bombay if they had a work vacancy. And it just clicked that when I graduated, I got placed with architecture plus design, which is the leading architectural journal of India. And I
Hmm.
started my career from there.
Hmm. Very interesting, because it's very rare that at that age we have a clarity what we wish to do and what we like, and then also as getting to do that, I mean, as an opportunity, because you are very well aware how the profession is so challenging when we get out of the college and we are put in this world, and we have to find out what to do and practice, and many of us get into masters and all. So tell me, how did you do your further education when you were into the journalism? Because you are also one of the early architectural journalists in the country. I mean, uh, I don't recall anybody was taking it so much rigorously as you had started your career.
Okay. So, Mansee, yes, as you rightly said, my personal experience will be very different because obviously
Yes,
everyone's circumstances are different. One, as I
yes.
spoke about my upbringing, but also said that I don't work in the mainstream profession of practicing architecture by creating
Hmm.
buildings, and also
Yes,
I work independently. So
yes.
fortunately for me, I have collaborated with men and
Hmm.
women, and I have had a rather smooth journey than what people in the field can go through. But I do think there are some biases which are always there. One of them, I'm going to be connecting it to these alternate avenues of architecture, which I'm also pursuing, because I have heard a lot of times that people get into alternate avenues like architectural writing or research. Women get into this because they cannot face the challenges that are there on the side. So I think that bias has to go, because I think a career choice is not only because which it works for which gender. I think it has to be based on what one wants to do in life, and any
Yes,
kind of alternate avenues in architecture, they have many challenges which people have on the side. We might not face the same kind of challenges that happen on an architectural site, or which are happening in an academic circle, but there are many other challenges that we people face. But what I've seen over the years, there has been a lot of understanding, and there has been a lot of growth where the facilities for women in architecture are being provided today. So right from a career break, there are organizations who are offering programs to these women to come back and work within this same circle, even if women are not connecting to each other professionally. On a personal level, there are so many organizations today,
yes.
and within architecture also, I can specify, who are just asking people to come together, be a unit, and probably discuss their lives, their happiness, their sorrow, their challenges, so that someone or the other can probably give them some kind of advice. A lot of practices today, they are being led by women. So earlier there used to be only practices which were men
Yes.
dominated, or where a woman was coming in as a spouse who was lesser known. But that is really, really, really changing. I would also say that today, even if you take within academic circles, or even in a profession like architectural writing, where there are publication houses, there are magazines, a lot of women are coming in as editors, as heads, as research heads, or as principals of the institution. So there are a lot of challenges, but I think, Mansi, it is very important for us to know that this is a societal thing. This has nothing to do with
Yes. With
architecture.
the profession.
Yeah, and the society is not going to change. It will take decades and centuries. Yeah, we can take a lot of steps to do it, but at
Hmm.
at at some point we have to make peace that we cannot get everyone to think otherwise. So there are a lot of things that we need to do. We need to make some kind of compromises that are okay. And at the end of it, I also think it's a very, very personal choice.
Absolutely. Actually, on basis. So I would like to understand from you, Apurva, how it is to be a, high profile professional and also have a family and run it. And where do you think that we as women, we are balancing this act, to be good at both? And that's the aspiration I think today every woman, working woman is having, professional woman. How do you do it? Or what are your mantras? Let me just put it in this way. I think I'm not hearing you. Yeah,
Okay, so if
now
I got
please
your
go ahead.
if I got your question, you said what are my mantras to wade through it, right?
Yes.
Oh,
How do you
okay.
balance?
I have to tell you something which might be a little surprising for you, that though I am very, very focused and very passionate about my work, but I have never been someone who is willing to give up on her family or compromise on her family because of her work. So in fact, let me tell you, my first job opportunity was with A plus D, and I worked with them for them for some time, and then I moved to UK because I got married. Okay. In fact, my parents would have. I actually got married quite early, much earlier than most of my batchmates, and
Mhm.
and my friends. And it was nothing to do with my parents, because my parents would have actually liked to wait for 2 years before they got me married. But I got married, moved to UK, and then me and my husband came back to Bangalore. So what I'm trying to say is that though I'm extremely committed in my work, I'm very disciplined about the timelines that I commit, but I've always been always a very family person. I'm a very house
Mhm.
proud person. So even if I have to do my household chores, I have to cook,
Mhm.
or and I have very tight work deadlines, I do try and complete everything. So at the end of it, the mantra is, it's the choice that I've made for myself. Now, if someone
Yes.
had to put me, to say either you work or either you take care of the household chores, then it would have been very different. But it's
Yes.
something that's been a part of me. I don't know, in fact, why it's been a part of me also, that, I am so focused on, how the house has to be. I manage the house. It was nothing that my parents drilled in me, as I said.
Mm.
But, you want to do something in life. And that's the choice that I made in life, that if I have to give full time to my family, I will do that. If I have to give full time to my work, I will do that. So that's the only kind of balance that I'm trying to make, and that's only happening because I want to do it. Right? I'm not being
Yeah.
pushed into it. So I would say that's the only mantra.
Self-driven. It's self-driven.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
So,
that's
just to understand from you, does it make a difference to have a spouse from the same profession or spouse from a different profession? You must be having your friends with a different combination, and as compared to you, how do you look at it? I mean, how does the profession gets a little bit better for us to practice when we are in the same or we are different? What is your experience on that?
So, I recently came up with a book which is called Architecture, Inheritance and Evolution in India,
Mm.
which is based on architectural families in India.
Mm.
So there are 10 families where the entire family is made up of architects. So, sisters,
Mm.
brothers, parents, spouses. So I actually through the and the book is based on conversations. So through the entire conversations, I actually got to understand what it is to
Yes.
be like having a family members from the same profession. Now, I think there can be advantages. There can be disadvantages too.
Mm.
In my case, because I was never in this scenario. My husband is not from this field. As I said, none of my family members are from this field. So I have not really gone through that to understand whether it would have been a positive thing or a negative thing. But I think one of the advantages I can say is that when you're from different fields, you can come back with different stories. So, for example, when I was working on my book, also, my husband would give me advices, would be giving me advice, which came from a person who was not into architecture and design. And I think that's very
As a reader.
yeah, and I think that's very important because, architecture
Mm.
and design are not fields that are supposed to be meant only for the industry. The
Mm.
discussions have to go beyond that. And when you have,
Yes.
input from people who are not from the industry, it really works. But
Mm.
having said that, I should also say that so when I moved to Bangalore in 2009, and that was also because we were in the UK before, and then we moved to Bangalore. Bangalore was a place where I did not have any connection, right? As in family, only my husband was there. Our families are either in North India or overseas, so there has never been any family support in Bangalore. Professionally, I didn't know anyone here. I wasn't educated here, neither I was working here. So those are the things that didn't happen. So I know of many people today who are probably married to architects, or who are married in the same city, so they have their family support, or they have been educated in the same city, or they've started working. So they always have that kind of support there. But talking about me, I think that's also, there are a lot of things that are not there for you. But then you try and find out
Absolutely.
what is next that you can do. So what I have
Yeah.
always been trying to do is go out, network, meet people, create opportunities. And that's the way how it has always been.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. So, because you're talking about going out and meeting people and networking and all, this is a good time to ask you the question on there are many people who influence our lives, right? I mean, of course, parents are one, and immediate people we know. But talking about the professional side of it, so it will be interesting to understand what Apurva is today and who are the people who have really influenced her in what she's doing today. So, would you like to speak something about
So Mansi, it will be probably very difficult for me to pick a few people
name few?
who have inspired me,
Yeah,
and
but
that's also because in my journey of architectural writing or architectural curation, there is a lot of exposure that I get. There's a lot of
mm,
travel that I do. There's a lot of networking. There's a lot of connections
mhm,
I make. So I think all along, right from the senior most generation of architects, whether you were interacting with them, people like B.B. Doshi sir, S.D. Sharma sir, Raj Rabal sir, who
yes,
were a part of my first book, to the middle generation, to the younger generation. I think that you can get inspired by everything and anything. You don't have to be
yes,
really inspired from people who are established names.
ABC.
Right.
Yeah,
I think when you see the younger generation of architects, even when you interact with younger students, so I do a lot of these training initiatives. So
yes,
I interact with a lot of students. So there are qualities which may not kind of fit into your architectural, expertise or
yeah,
skill, but you imbibe it from them. So I think I learn from from people across age groups, across generations, and not only from India, overseas also. There's a lot of reading that I
yes,
do, and in fact, as I said, architecture and design, they're all about spaces, right? And
yes,
space is not only physical space. Space can also be a mental kind of a space. So, those kind of understanding of space, you can get it from people who are not connected to the architecture and design
yes,
industry.
absolutely.
That's how architecture and design, they become a part of our lives. So yes, there are no specific inspirations, but I think I get inspired by so many things in life.
Yeah, yeah. Actually, the question could have been phrased to you like this: situations which moves you, something like this. And some life-changing moments and decisions that you made, I can understand one which you already mentioned in your undergraduate, but some things which really shape what we are today. So apart from choosing your fourth year journalism course of elective, would you like to share any other moments which really moved you or changed you the way you look at the
So
world or the profession?
I think life changing is a huge word, and nothing can be life changing really, because life is constant. But I would say what shapes me today is one my upbringing, which I already spoke about earlier,
Yes,
and the second is also my experiences, because whether those are personal experiences or whether those are professional experiences, because we all really have to understand at the end of the day, whether it's upbringing, whether it's experiences, nothing is really perfect. But as you
yes,
grow in life, you realize that you kind of filter out the good things and learnings and take them ahead in your
mm,
life, while you also need to relearn a lot of things that you were taught in your
yes,
upbringing, which you need to fix as you grow older. So I wouldn't as to say there was anything life changing, but yes, I would say that that the moment I took that
Mm.
decision for myself, when I said that,
Mm-hmm.
I want to take up architectural writing, and more than that, I decided that the job that
Mm.
ASD was offering me in Delhi, that I
Mm-hmm.
wanted to take it up because it was a very difficult decision. My parents didn't want me to let go to Delhi, especially for a field which had no precedent, at least in India.
Yes.
What I have heard is that I was probably the first architect in India who took up
Yes.
architectural writing as a
As a
full-time career.
profession.
Right after my graduation. So I think it was that moment. I think if I would have weakened or said, okay, I'll listen to my parents or whatever, I'll embrace
Or
the
submit to,
consequences.
yeah, submit to the
So
situation.
yeah,
Mm.
I wouldn't have traveled this journey. So if I had to
Mm.
really pinpoint a moment, I would say at that moment,
That's
which gave me the
absolutely.
courage to say that this is my passion, this is something that I want to do, and this is something that I think will make a difference to architecture and design. So I would say in some ways, that was an important decision that I took in my life.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think, following passion initially may be even doubtful, may create a lot of self-doubts. But if we continuously keep doing it, I think we
True.
not only have belief in that, but also we can foresee the gap which was there, and I can clearly see in your life journey, because I have been also following your work for quite some time now. And in fact, when I started teaching architectural journalism some years ago, I had reached you.
That's
And
true.
I never knew that Chandigarh College Architecture was teaching architecture journalism that time, because it was something so new in Ahmedabad in those days, when I dig into the subject, and now it's a regular subject for me as well. So learning from you. But coming to your own experiences of being in different setups, different settings, whether in on the field with people, whether in a boardroom discussions and all. I would like to understand from you, being woman, there been situations where you thought that, oh, it's a very good situation to be woman in this setup, whatever discussion, or it was not a good idea to be woman in this setup. Would you like to narrate any such situations where you felt? Because I can understand people like you who have not really felt the gender situations, but when I'm doing this research, I'm also understanding the pattern which is in the society. So it's important for me to understand this through small situations and narrations. So would you like to throw some light on situations where you felt, aha, good to be woman, or aha, not a good idea to be
So
woman?
I must tell you, I have always felt most happiest of being a woman. I'm not apologetic about it. In every life that I'm born, I
Absolutely, we
hope
should not be.
I am born a woman. So that's my thing of being a woman. But having said that, yes, as I said, I work independently. So these things don't come
Yeah.
to me on a daily basis. But yes, I do interact with a lot of people, whether those are in collaborations or whether I'm doing a training initiative and I'm teaching
Mm.
them. But I have to say something that though I'm a very warm and friendly person, and I'm a very social person, both in my personal and professional associations. But I think there is something in my conduct. It's probably a part of my upbringing. I know it from my college days and then through my working days also, that there is a certain vibe in me which makes it clear that a boundary cannot be crossed with me. So I am
Mm.
probably someone that gives that kind of a vibe, and I again don't know how that it happened. It's probably because of the values that were passed on to me, because no one told me that you have to do this. So I generally, whenever I have collaborated or something, because there are few people I know. A very senior architect was speaking to me a few months back, and he told me, you are in a profession which is not really known. You have to actually go about telling people what you do. And even when I'm going to conferences for talks and everything, I go and meet people, all new faces, but I do that. But he told me something which I have also realized over the years, that the vibe that comes from me is that I am very warm, I'm very friendly, I'm also very professional, but there's always a boundary you do not cross with me. I think that's a good thing. So I'm
Yeah.
never very happy, or never. I've never been sad about being a woman. I think it's the best blessing that I've got.
Interesting. So, and you have worked with so many people in your lives, and also you have documented so many people's work. And I would like to pose my penultimate question to you, and it's a hypothetical scenario. Maybe you are unaffected in the gender issue of the profession, but I'm sure you will agree that there is a gender bias in the profession. There are more male practitioners, there are more male who are more famous. Even if when you have done this work on spouses, you may have realized it much harder that behind every successful man, there is a woman who has been working very hard. Uh, Imagine a situation in the country where today we have more male architects who are well known, acknowledged, and appreciated. And we know the state of the cities, state of the environment, state of the social fabric, all kinds of scenarios. Imagine a situation where if we had a day when the all the leading architects of the country or planners who have built who are associated with built environment are all women, what do you think our cities would look like? And that's the only professional question actually I have in the entire conversation. Will you see a change in the way our cities are built, the environment, the social fabric? And what changes do you envisage if it was all women's game instead of all men's game?
So Mansi, though I really, congratulate and support the work that is happening, but there is one thing that, I really believe in, and that is that we have to have a balance.
Absolutely.
We have to have a balance. So even in a world where there are only women architects working, definitely not going to work.
No, it's not going to work, definitely. And
Right.
honestly, Apurva, I would like to live a day where we don't have to discuss men and women. We have to just
Definitely.
discuss the problem. But to reach that stage, we have to have a target so that when you target something, you are at least 1% or 0.1% ahead in that target, That's why this question.
Yes. No, I think I think it's a very hypothetical question, and
Yes,
we all know the contributions of women, and you are very right in saying there is clearly a divide. Some people really feel it. Some people feel it on the surface, and and for some it's very very deep. And as I said, there is a lot that is happening, but I don't wish for a day when there would be only
me neither.
women
Me
architects.
neither.
And as you said very rightly, I also wish that there comes a day when we don't have to call ourselves as women architects. We just need to
Yes,
call ourselves architects. And
architect.
I also think that we as women, our aim should be not to behave very submissively in a male-dominated industry like architecture. But at the same time, we shouldn't be making pleas to value our work from
Yes,
a different perspective, because our work needs to be celebrated when it is good. It is not
yes,
to be celebrated because we have kind of surpassed the lone tag of housewife or the mother. So there has to be a
yes,
day when we talk about equality, and when we talk about
yes,
equality, it is men and women together, not only men,
yes,
not only women. In fact, I have been on the panel for many discussions, either as the moderator or probably just a spectator or as a panelist. And sometimes I'm really surprised why there are panels there where there are no women. So when I curate these kind of
yes,
discussions, or when I curate these kind of events, I ensure that in a panel of five, there are at least two women, which is not to say that I'm just
yeah,
adding the women, because there have to be women, but
yeah,
they deserve that kind of recognition.
yeah.
Just hope for a day when everyone can be treated as equal, and there are no women architects or men architects.
Yeah, absolutely. I also wish to have that day, and probably that's why this little effort towards it, because right now the situation is skewed. And for me also, there have been many, many occasions when I'm the only one and I'm surrounded by other, people. And I feel a little bit deviate from the point where you mentioned that it's not because they are women you have brought them in, but because they deserve to be there. And somewhere people like me, we also have noticed that why not to have them consciously? And that's the, I think, slight difference in the way we are trying to look at things, probably because I'm doing a research on it. That brings me to the last question to you, and it's a very simple question meant for the younger generation. No discussion on gender, but the question is in two parts. What it is to be in the profession of architecture, and because you know that the profession really needs some promotion and and telling people what it is to be in this profession. And the second part is what the younger generation should keep in mind to engender the profession so that we reach this equitable situation which we are aspiring for. People like researchers like me who are aspiring for and doing our little bit in this way, what should they keep in mind? So it's in two parts, and over to you. Thank you so much.
So the first is, yes, now when I talk about a profession, as I said, it is very important to take a profession that you're interested in. So if I heap praises about architecture, but you don't want it as a career choice, you will never want to do it. So as I said earlier also, it's very, very passionate. It is very important to be passionate about what you're doing, because when you have a passion for something, that will give a purpose to your life. So even if I have to talk about architecture, the good thing about architecture that has been happening over the years, that today you don't only have to be a practicing architect, who has to build buildings, because architecture as a
Yes,
subject, as a discipline, it helps us grow in different directions. It is not only one kind of direction. It opens up lots of avenues for us. So whether you want to build buildings, or whether you want to work in the academic field, whether you want to be an architectural writer, architectural photographer, landscape architect, interior architect, there are so many options that you have. But the way to pick up the option is not say that this is not working, this is not working, this is only one remaining, let's pick it up. That's not the way how you pick
yeah,
up career. You pick up your career knowing that this is what I want to do. I know I can go through it, and then you put all the hard work in it. So architecture, I think the impact is huge, but the only issue is that we don't really understand the impact architecture can make, and that
yes,
as people who are connected to the architecture and design industry, we have to come forward, whether we are practicing architects through the medium of buildings or through the medium of words. We have to bring the impact in front of everyone. So that is the first thing, first question that you answered, Mansee. And the last thing you said, how they can make it a profession which is most respected. I would just say the only way that you can make it a profession very respected is, as individuals, focus on your work, be the best in it. Let there be a sense of passion and conviction in what you're doing. Work hard, stay grounded, stay committed, and have a clear conscience. Now, these could be ideals that could be followed by people in any profession, but that's the
yes,
thing. You don't have to work to become a good architect. If you become a good professional, and whatever skill
person.
you have taken, whether architecture or properly law or medicine, you will excel in it. So these are a few ideas that you really need to follow. And if you stay committed, and if you are giving your best to the profession, I think the profession is itself going to raise. So that's our kind of contribution and tribute to architecture.
And that's wonderful to hear. I mean, you really made the conversation look so easy, importantly, because you already delimited the way architecture should be looked at. That's the best part, because I mean, you also understand that it's a research, so I have to continuously focus on talking about architecture and built environment. But the more I am interacting with people like you, I'm also realizing how, especially through my research, I'm learning that how women have really delimited the very definition of architecture itself. I mean, that's one of my major findings, that it is not only to build buildings that you have to be called as architects, like people like you. And I look at myself also. I mean, it's been ages when I have built anything now. So it's more than 2 decades now. So in a way, knowingly or unknowingly, we are redefining the way architecture is looked upon. So, and I think that women have major contribution in that, and especially maybe I'm studying women and I'm biased about it, but I do see most of the women whom I have interacted, they have not limited themselves to only making buildings. I mean, they are doing a lot more than making buildings also. Some, yes, making buildings and doing this, but some have also explored and ventured into areas which nobody had imagined. And you are the classic example for this. So thank you so much, Apurva, for this wonderful conversation. And it's really enlightening for me to understand how you look at life. I mean, it's eventually, it's not about profession, it's about being good human, and then profession can follow. And also your priorities about it. May you remain an inspiration to others. And I'm really grateful to have learned about your endeavors very briefly. But also the idea in this research is also to understand you briefly so that we can bring your story to others. You are very well known person, so I don't need to do that additionally, but it's just for us to understand how women architects are conducting their lives. I wish you best to continue your endeavors, and I do hope that you will keep us posted in whatever you do, and we will continue our conversation in women in architecture. And thank you once again, Apurva, and please take care, and we connect with each other very soon. Thanks a lot.